and a warm welcome to this final session of this workshop. I'm very happy to see that all of you have participated very enthusiastically in this workshop. And today we are going to have the concluding activities of the workshop, particularly a discussion on formulation of question papers and a completion of the remaining presentations that we were not able to complete yesterday. And finally, a few valedictory notes, where I would also be requesting our outreach staff to talk to you about certain points about the outreach programs and the Creative Commons license and the endeavors. And we'll also give a quick introduction to the next workshop, which is very soon due to begin on the 4th of December. So we'll also say, because that workshop is linked to this one in some sense. And I'm hoping that some of you would be continuing into that workshop. Well, with these few words of introduction, I would like to straight away go on to the presentations. So we'll first have the presentations from those who were not able to make the presentations yesterday. So I believe that we had gone up to group 3 yesterday, is that right? And then we also did group 6. But then some of the other groups opted to make a presentation today. So do we have group 4 ready today? Okay, if not group 4, then do we have group 5 ready today? So group 6 already had its presentation yesterday. So what about group 7? Is group 7 ready?
Yes, sir. Yes, I am ready. I am ready, sir.
Very good. So let's have group 7 first then. So Professor Nandita Sanyal, you could make a presentation.
So good afternoon to everyone. This is the third and concluding presentation of group 7. It is regarding Fourier properties of Fourier transform and Fourier series example. That is the topic. Now, yesterday there was a lot of discussion on Fourier transform and Fourier series. So I just go to the introduction part that is known to everyone, that Fourier transform is a mathematical transform that decomposes. So it is a decomposes a function into constituent frequencies. Any function or any kind of signal are comprising of several sinusoids, and with the help of this sinusoid we can synthesize every kind of signal. So Fourier transforms gives us the idea that what are the frequencies present in a particular signal. And Fourier series is used to represent a periodic function by a discrete sum of complex exponentials, but it is applicable for the periodic function only. But when we go for Fourier transform, it will be also applied for the aperiodic functions also. So with this introduction, this is the this is the expression by which we can find out Fourier transform. Now, what is a transform? It is what is Fourier transform actually? It converts a time domain signal into a frequency domain signal, and since it is a transform, the reverse is also possible. That means if we have the frequency domain signal, we can get the corresponding time domain signal as well. So that's why it is called the transform, Fourier transform. Now, this Fourier transform, this is for an example that Fourier transform of an exponential signal. This xt is equal to e to the power of bt ut. And now to find out the Fourier transform of this is this e to the power minus bt ut will be multiplied by e to the power of minus j omega t, and it will be integrated over the interval minus infinity to plus infinity. And after doing the integration, we get the result, and this is the Fourier transform of that this e to the power of minus dt xt. If b is less than 0, xw does not exist because it becomes it's a complex number, and it is when b equal to 0, this no, here something I have written. Yes, when b is less than 0, then that means e to the power of bt is a positive, is very high value, because as b tends to minus infinity, this e to the power bt becomes positive, very high value. And when b equal to 0, xt is equal to ut, and when b greater than equal to 0, we have this e to the power of minus bt, that is, we will be getting a finite expression, that is x omega equal to b plus j omega. And from this since this is a complex number, from there we can have its magnitude as well as the phase, and we can plot it with respect to frequency omega, complex frequency omega. So now let us come to the Fourier transform of a rectangular pulse. This rectangular pulse is of width capital T, and it is taken as a symmetric pulse. It is situated between minus t by 2 to t by capital T by 2, and its amplitude is a. Now to find out the Fourier transform, we have to apply the equation, that integration minus infinity to plus infinity a e to the power of j omega t dt. And since beyond minus t by 2 and beyond plus t by 2, the signal is not there, that it is not existing. So that's why the limit is transfer. We can take the limit, that minus t by 2 to plus t by 2. And after doing the integration, we get at sine omega t by 2 by omega t by 2. Now here omega t by 2 is taken as pi gamma, and at it is at sine pi gamma by pi gamma. This is a very special function. This is a very special function called the sinc function, and this sinc function has got a peculiar nature. If we plot it against gamma, we can see that it is basically a diminishing, it is decaying sinusoids. That means there is a main lobe. This portion is main lobe, and there is again other lobes. Their amplitude is going down and down and down, and ultimately with the gamma tending to infinity, it will become 0. So its property is that it is an even function, and it is 0 at the points gamma equal to 1, gamma equal to 2, like that, plus minus 1, plus minus 2, plus minus 3, like that. And I told that as gamma tends to 0, its value tends to unity, or here we have taken at, so it will be the amplitude at. So it is basically a damped sinusoid. Now, at all frequency, then what is the significance of this sinc function? That is, we have seen that we do the Fourier transform for the entire frequency range minus infinity to plus infinity. But here we can see that it is very much cramped. All that means all the frequencies are coming together to form a wave-like thing, and it is forming a diminishing sinusoids or a decaying sinusoidal pattern, and all the frequencies are coming together. And we can also see that if this time is halved, then this lobe will change its amplitude will be also halved, and this spacing will increase. So the pulse is limited in terms of its occupancy of the time axis. It goes only minus t/2 to t/2, and this means what is the use of this sinc function? Why it is so important? That if we want to vanish vanish some frequencies all over the time axis outside some finite interval, we can bring all the frequencies together, and we can clamp the axis. We cannot have to take minus infinity to plus infinity. I have shown some example that this Gibbs phenomenon can this sinc function can observe if there is a sharp change within a very short interval of time. Suppose there is a chopping of a wave. Suppose there is a step function and it is chopped. So to get a square pulse, in that case, this type of oscillations are available this can be observed at the edges. So that is, I don't know whether I am correct or not. That is something, it is called Gibbs phenomenon. Now, come to the properties of Fourier transform. There are several properties. Some of these properties will be discussed today in this presentation. These are linearity, time shift, then convolution, then these three I will discuss. So what is the linearity? Now, these are the two basic equations of Fourier transform and inverse Fourier transform. And from the linearity property, what we can say that if there are two signals, suppose xt and yt, they are having their Fourier transform x omega and y omega. Then when their weighted sum is undergone Fourier transform, they will also give the same weighting function, and the Fourier transform of this axt plus byt will be equal to ax omega plus by omega. So that is the linearity property, and it holds good for the inverse Fourier transform also. So let us take two functions, that is h1t and h2t, which are having their Fourier transform h1 omega and h2 omega, and their weighted sum is alpha h1 omega plus beta h2 omega, where alpha and beta are the constants, and this alpha, then h1 omega is equal to this, that is 1 by 2 pi minus infinity to plus infinity h1t to the power of j omega t d omega. That is the Fourier transform of this h1t. Then this is h2t, Fourier transform of h2t, and it is multiplied by beta. Now we are taking common 1 by 2 pi to minus infinity to plus infinity. This will come as alpha h1t plus beta h2t, and it will be multiplied by e to the power of j omega t. So if this signal is resultant signal, we can take it as GT, and it will be GT to the power of j omega t. This GT is the equivalent time signal that is equal to alpha h1t plus beta h2t. So from this deduction, we can see that in case of inverse is also, linearity also holds good for Fourier transform as well as the inverse Fourier transform. Now let us come to the next property, that is time shift. It is very, very important property. Time shift means a time domain signal is shifted by certain amount of time, that is xt is shifted by time t0, and the resultant signal is xt minus t0. So it's if we do the if xt has the Fourier transform capital X omega, in that case xt minus t0 will be x j omega e to the power of minus j omega 0. That means there this part, this e to the power of minus j omega 0 t0, that is basically the phase part is multiplied to the Fourier transform. Now from this is the proof, and all of you can see that we can prove it very easily, and the magnitude, and we can see that the magnitude of Fourier transform remains unchanged, but the phase is changing. The phase is changing depending upon the time shift of the signal. So that means time delay is equivalent to linear phase shift at the frequency domain. This omega t0, if it is plotted against omega, then it is giving a constant giving a constant shift, and that's why it is called of linear phase shift. So now there is another aspect of it, that is called modulation. What is modulation? It is almost same as the time shift, but here the signal is multiplied by a complex exponential. So if the signal is multiplied by in the time domain, it is multiplied by a complex exponential. That means some phase is added to it. In that case, the Fourier transform will be delayed in frequency axis. Delayed in frequency axis. That is the if x omega is the Fourier transform of xt, then xt into e to the power of j omega 0 t will be the Fourier transform, and its Fourier transform will be x omega minus omega 0. So that is the that this property is almost similar as the previous one, but that in the previous case, in the time shift, the signal is shifted in the time domain, but in case of modulation, the signal, the Fourier transform is shifted in the frequency domain. So this is an example that when xt is taken multiplied with cos omega t, since cos omega t can be represented by complex exponentials, so in that case we can easily see that in the Fourier domain the result will be Fourier transforms will be given by this type of expression. So when we shift a function in time, it causes a modulation in frequency domain. So when we modulate the function in time by multiplying a rotating complex number, then corresponding Fourier transform shifts in frequency. So this is the very interesting property for Fourier transform. Then let us come to the convolution in time domain. That means if if xt is convolved with ht and both are having their their Fourier transform exists, that means capital X omega and H omega exists. So in that case, if we this convolution of xt ht is operated through Fourier transform, Fourier operator, then their Fourier transform is the multiplication of x omega to h omega. So that is this is the proof of this how this comes multiplication that is there. That is from the basic expression that x a lambda into h t minus lambda d lambda, where lambda, in place of lambda we can place alpha, and t minus lambda we can put beta. Then alpha beta is equal to, there is we can have this determinant lambda and t, and d lambda dt will be equal to the determinant into del alpha and del beta. So since the value of the determinant is 1, d lambda dt is d alpha d beta. So if we replace all these things, and we just, what we do, we take all the beta terms together and separating the alpha terms. So if we take the beta terms together, we can get, it is a nothing but a Fourier transform expression, and it is h omega, and x alpha and e to the power this portion is the Fourier transform of xt. So we can get this value, that convolution of xt and ht when operated on Fourier operator, Fourier transform operator, we can get their multiplication of their Fourier transform. There are several properties, that is time scaling, time reversal, multiplication by power of t. Then these are all properties, but these are I am not going to discuss. And I know that there are some mistakes in this presentation, but thank you very much, and thank you all of you. Thank you, sir, for giving me this opportunity to present. And by presenting these topics in front of all of you and getting critical review, I am enriched. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Nandita Sanyal. I must first and foremost place on record my very sincere appreciation for you, because you have been able to make all the 3 presentations on behalf of your group in spite of not getting cooperation from your other group members. So we must all appreciate her tenacity to make her presentations no matter what obstacles came her way. I'm sure in future also this would stand her in good stead when she deals with the course and when she teaches a class. So very well done, madam.
Thank you very much.
Now a few comments about the presentation. First and foremost, about e raised to the power minus bt. You said that e raised to the power minus bt would not have a Fourier transform when b is negative. That is correct. But the reason that you gave was not quite accurate. The reason is that if you look at the integral does not converge. Right?
Okay.
So e raised to the power minus bt into e raised to the power, as you correctly said, e raised to the power minus bt becomes a growing exponential, and then it cannot be the integral, Fourier integral would not converge. And therefore, the Fourier transform does not exist for that function. Now,
okay, sir.
There are some very good points about your presentation, which I would like all the other participants also to note. One is that, you very beautifully emphasized the infinite support of the sinc function and gave it an interpretation. Now, if you remember in the first session of this workshop, we had talked about giving an interpretation to excite students.
Yes, sir.
And in fact, if you look at the interpretation you gave, it's a very revealing interpretation for you see the fact that a function which becomes 0 over an infinite interval of time requires an infinite number of sine waves to come together to cancel it. You see, this is a very important interpretation which you gave. That means, to be able to cancel the function at every point after a certain interval after t by 2 and minus t by 2, you need an infinite number of sine waves to come together, very dense set of sine waves to come together with appropriate amplitudes to cancel. That's what the sinc function tells you. The sinc function extends to infinity. So
Yes.
if you want to confine yourself in one domain, you have to be willing to completely spread yourself in the other domain. That is a very important point you brought out. Moreover, you brought out very beautifully the connection between time shift and phase shift. So in fact, you said a time shift in the signal results in a linear phase shift. And this is something that we have to emphasize to a student of signals and systems. That the time shift on the signal causes a change in phase of the Fourier transform, and the phase change is linear. So the interpretation of linear phase needs to be given here. Yes, and what you did when you talked about the modulation property is almost hinted at the property of duality in the Fourier transform. Yeah, that was very nice. So very nice. I'm very happy with this presentation. And now we shall invite, is group 8 ready to make a presentation, or is one of the earlier groups ready to make a presentation? So group
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Nandita. Now, is one of the earlier groups ready with the presentation, 4 or 5? If not, then we'll take group 8. Okay, group 8, I don't see it coming forward. So then group 9, group 10, well, none of the groups seem to be ready with the presentation today. So in that case, then we'll go on to the question paper discussion, right? So now is group 1 ready with its question paper?
Yes, sir.
So now you could start discussing your question paper.
So good afternoon to all the faculty members. We make some effort related to the quiz questions with the help of support of all our group members, group number 1. I thank to all the members for their support to make this question paper. Okay. The first question. So please read the question and you can answer for this question. Okay.
So I think your first statement should read atmospheric pressure is a function of function of altitude, right?
Okay.
Sorry. Anyway, okay, so we make that correction. Atmospheric pressure is a function of altitude. Okay.
Okay. Okay. The second option, speed signal is function of time.
Yeah.
Average budget is continuous variable. Crime rate is discrete variable. Among these 4 statements, which of the statements are correct? Which of the statement is going to be the incorrect? I'm asking. Respected faculty members, if you know the answer, I can turn on your mic.
You're asking them to put it in chat. So you're conducting a test for the. Okay. So anybody wants to put the answer in chat? Okay, so you have a few answers, Professor Ramchandra. Maybe you can share your answer now.
So the correct option is C is the correct option, sir. Atmospheric pressure is a function of altitude. Speed signal is function of time. We know already average budget is representation in terms of discrete variables, sir. It's not continuous. So statement.
Okay. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, statement 1 to 4 are correct, sir, regarding to this question.
So why no? So see, when you say continuous variable, there is an ambiguity there. So is it now? Are you saying it's a function of a continuous independent variable, or are you saying that the average budget itself is a continuous quantity?
The way, suppose we're representing the budget is in terms of discrete variable, no, sir?
Yeah, but no. So what is it that you're saying is discrete there? The time at which the budget is presented every February or whatever. You're saying,
yeah, that is a discrete
February of every year that way.
Yeah, yes, sir.
But that's then when your question has not been formulated properly.
Okay.
See, once this is so we must all take care of this problem. See, if we don't formulate the question properly, for example, here, if you wanted to say that, you should have said, or so one of the things that you could have said is average budget is a function of a continuous independent variable.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Then it would have been incorrect. I agree. But average budget, the quantity itself is continuous.
Yeah, the quantity is continuous, sir. But
so then there is a confusion in your question. Your question has not been framed unambiguously.
Okay.
Similarly for crime rate. Now, crime rate, there at least we can say, because crime rate, you cannot have half a person doing a crime. But
yes, that's
still,
great.
I mean, here, I think the framing of your question can be considerably improved.
Okay,
Yes,
sir.
of course, there is a typographical error in the first one. So we have to be careful about all these things when we are framing questions. Yes.
Okay, sorry, sir.
Okay, well, no, it's not nothing to be sorry. See, we have to, this is the way, that's the whole idea of this pedagogy workshop. So we look at where our pitfalls are and be wary about
Sure,
them
sir.
when you teach a course. Good,
Sure.
very nice.
Okay.
Good,
I
well
move on
done.
to the
Good.
next
Yes,
question.
next question. Yes.
From the given below waveforms, which of the statements are belongs to true or false? The first option is nothing but both the signals are periodic in nature. Option B, that is relation between fundamental frequencies. They are given that omega 1 is less than omega 2. Is it true or false? Relation between fundamental period, that is T1 related to the first one, T2 is related to the second one. Is it true or false related to all these three? I'm asking whether the signals are belongs to periodic or non-periodic. Second one, whether the relation between the fundamental frequencies omega 1 and omega 2 is related like this. Is it true or false? And the relation between fundamental periods, that is T1 and T2, is the relation between these two, is it correct or false?
Okay, very good. So let people put up answers in the chat. Okay. Yes, so we'll invite answers from participants.
Sir, here's the question. I feel it is ambiguous. What should be the answer, sir?
No, ma'am, actually we're having A, B, C here. Among this A, B, C, which one is true, which one is false, I'm asking.
Okay.
So each of
But
them you're
in
supposed to
second-
say true or false.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so you have several answers. I think many of them are, so yes,
Yes,
so
sir.
Professor Ramchandra. You
So
can see that
here both the
participants
signals
are
are
very-
periodic, sir. X1 of t and X2 of t,
Yes,
both are
that is right.
periodic with
Very
each
good.
other.
Yes,
So if you observe the time period, here itself we came to know the
Yes.
T1 is less than T2, sir.
yes.
So
T1 is less than T2. Yeah.
T2, yeah. So automatically, the relation between time and frequency inverse proportional with each other, okay? So the B and C is belongs to the false, sir.
Okay. In fact, here the omega question at least is somewhat unambiguous. But the part C is almost obvious, right? You have the way you've drawn it. There's nothing. I mean, what I'm saying is, if you look at the A and B have some, and A again is almost a truism.
Okay,
B
sir.
is the one which requires some thinking.
Okay,
But
sir.
C is almost, you're the way it's obvious from a student will simply see your drawing and answer it, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
And say
So
when you
because-
frame the question, what are we
Okay.
testing in this question? In part 2B, of course, there's something being tested. But
Okay.
2A and 2C, I mean, signals being periodic, yeah, that at least, okay, it's a terminology you're testing. C is almost, I mean, C is, you can look at the figure and say, isn't it? T1 is less than T2,
Yes, sir.
isn't it? So,
Yes.
all right, good. Anyway, so good. The next, how many questions do you have?
20 questions, sir.
20 questions. So we'll take a couple of more questions from
Okay,
you.
sir.
We must give a chance to the others.
Sir,
Yes. Yes.
sir, that is what this is Meenakshatra here. That is what
Yes.
I wanted to confirm. Are we supposed to discuss all the questions or only?
No, we can't possibly do that. So we'll take a
That's
few sample
what.
questions. We'll take a few sample
Okay.
questions.
I think
from
we
each
have to
party.
consider a sample questions, samples.
Sample.
2 to 3 questions. Okay, okay,
Yeah,
sir.
few questions from each participant. Yes.
Okay, okay, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So this is my next question. Consider a scaled impulse with area k, then integral over minus infinity to t, k delta of tau d tau is equivalent to which of the following options? Okay.
Very good. Very good. Yeah, this is a, yeah. What is your, so let the participants answer you. This is a well-framed question, very well framed. Yes, lot of participants are giving you an answer. Just see.
So C is the correct option for this question.
Very
sir.
good. Yes, quite right.
So,
So in
because
fact, this is very well framed.
Thank
This
you, sir.
question is well framed as a short.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
good.
Thank
The next question. Let's take a few more from you.
The convolution sum representation for discrete time systems are linear time variant, non-linear time variant, linear time invariant, non-linear and time invariant.
Okay, this is again, this is all right. Yeah. Very good. So here also you have many participants answering you.
So the correct answer is linear time invariant, sir.
Very nice. Good.
Next question.
But you know, you grammatically look at the question. Go back to question 4. See, the convolution sum representation for discrete time systems is.
Okay.
Representation is singular.
Okay.
So you also have to be careful about, you know, the grammar when you're framing the
Okay.
question. You know, framing particularly, in fact, people think framing multiple choice questions is easy. Framing multiple choice questions is sometimes more difficult because you have to be very unambiguous there and you have to be very careful about different possible interpretations of the question. Very
like
good.
to-
Yes. All right. Good. Next couple, we'll take a few more questions from you. Yes.
Question
Read
number
out.
5. Which property allows us to write the response to input x of n as linear combination of the responses to the individual shifted impulses? Superposition property, additivity property, scaling property, time invariant property.
All right. Yeah. So let's have people. All right. So what is your answer?
Superposition property, sir.
Okay.
So because superposition property, again, it is inherently you are having additivity as well as the homogeneity.
Yes, but yes, that is true.
Yeah.
You know, but again, if you look at the framing of your question, there is an ambiguity.
Oh,
See,
okay.
which property allows us to write the response? Now, if you look at additivity and scaling, both of them are required,
Yes, sir.
isn't it? But they are not
Yes, sir.
adequate. Yeah. So
Yeah.
either you must say which property. So you're right. I know what you mean. What you mean is, see, again, you know, there is a bit of ambiguity here.
So in
Because
some
when you say
context,
responses to individual shifted impulses.
okay.
Now the question is, do you mean that the
Yes.
response to the individual shifted impulses should be the shifted version of the first impulse or not? Are you implying that or not? In that
Okay.
case, a time
Understood.
invariant property would come in.
Yeah, understood, sir. Okay.
So I think here this question needs to be more unambiguously framed.
Okay.
Is that right? You need to frame the question more unambiguously.
Okay.
Okay?
Sorry, sir.
That
Okay,
is, no, let's not be sorry. There's nothing to feel sorry. See, we have to, this is the way we learn. It's important. It's a good attempt, but we have to understand how to frame questions in such a way that they avoid ambiguity. Now, here,
Sure.
for example, which property allows us to write the response to input xn as a linear combination? So you're right. Superposition. What you are asking really is, which property here allows, if you knew the responses to each individual shifted impulse,
Okay,
which
sir.
property would allow you to write the overall response as an appropriate linear combination of these? So then you're right. Superposition is the answer,
Understood. Okay.
right? So you know,
Yes.
the question needs to be framed a little more unambiguously.
Okay.
All right, all right, okay. We'll take one or two more questions from you.
A convolution obeys commutative property, associative property, distributive property, and all the above.
You know, this is one of the pitfalls. Okay. This is one of the pitfalls when you frame a multiple choice question. This is called, now here, I would say all the four are correct. Now, I should say if somebody asks this kind of a question,
Okay.
a student should get credit for any of these, A, B, C, or D. See, these are some of the rules of framing. Now, see, because convolution obeys commutative property is correct. Convolution
associative
obeys
correct.
associative property is correct. Convolution obeys distributed property is correct. And convolution obeys all the above is also correct. Isn't it? So,
Yes,
when you're framing a question where one of the options is all the above,
okay.
then either you must make the other options non-admissible. For example, convolution obeys the commutative property but not the associative property. Associative property but not the commutative property.
Okay.
Distributive property but not the commutative property. And then commutative, associative, distributive properties.
Okay.
Then it is correct to say D.
Okay.
Professor Prashant, commutative property only. So Professor Prashant Athawale is suggesting you can write, you know, Professor
Sure, sir.
Athawale, if you say commutative property only,
Sir.
only what? Does it mean that there's only one property it has? You know, and so
Yes.
so you know, so therefore now you must say which. So only, see, when you say only again, you have to say only among what properties?
Understood.
Among. So either you say among the properties of commutativity, associativity, and distributivity,
Okay.
convolution obeys only commutativity, only associativity, only distributivity, or all of the three.
Okay, sir.
Then your answer is correct. So Professor Athawale is asking, so Professor Athawale, can you explain what you're asking?
Sir, as I said, like commutative property only, associative property only. Suppose if you were to put those words only
Yes.
at the end, then it is not only, right? So the correct answer as per the question number 6 should be all the above. So maybe I thought in that way, if we were to put.
See, you are right, partially correct, but when you say only, that only should be from a set. So
Okay.
the question you should say among the properties of commutativity, associativity, and distributivity.
Okay.
Convolution obeys. Then you can say commutative property only, associative property only. Then those will become incorrect.
Okay.
Right? And then all the above, all the three properties, commutativity, associativity, distributivity. So there should be no ambiguity in the question, right? So this question, of course, the way it has been framed, this question would become invalid in a test. Because any answer, whichever answer the student gives is correct. Right?
Understood. Yes.
Isn't it? So that's why these are some of the pitfalls. Yeah, good. Okay. Let's take
most of the time, this type of questions are there, sir.
But then that is the problem. That is the difficulty. So then in fact, then the student also gets, see, some students will lose credit and they are unfairly losing credit then. Isn't it? See, suppose a student marks in here. He deserves full credit. Isn't it? It's true that convolution obeys associative property. So you have to be careful when you frame questions. Framing questions also is a skill. Yeah.
Is a skill.
Yes, framing questions is also a skill. That's why I asked you to do it this. See, why are we having this exercise of discussing question papers today? Because as a pedagogical exercise, framing question papers is also a skill which has to be learned. And very often I find that in university question papers, I'm sorry to say, I don't mean to hurt anybody, but very often some of these points are not carefully addressed in some university question papers. Probably because, the person who is setting the question paper has not thought about these issues. And then it also, it can mislead the student's evaluation, isn't it? When you give an evaluation based on a question paper which has not been properly set, then it misleads the student's performance, misleads somebody in judging the student's performance.
Understood, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, good. All right. Very nice.
Sir, another point.
Yes.
It is related to again that question. So some cases now whatever the softwares are there, these particular options they are making also, actually it is not fixed option, it can be changed. Means you can actually, this A commutative property may be at C position or D position, that is shuffled. So that type of softwares are also nowadays are there. So in that case, actually whatever the mention, this all the above, this will not be true, because all the above may be at this particular position.
Correct. Yes.
So in that case, because most of the time now it is not a fixed parameter, so we can have the multiple permutation combination, and we can get the different papers all together. For that, whatever this MCQ when we are preparing, we have to prepare that as if they are used as an all four will be the valid positions, right? Valid positions.
Yes.
In this case, actually, I can suggest this all the mentioned, the mentioned things are there. That can be the things.
Yes.
Because
all. So you have
this is very important now. This is important.
See, you have to in the stem of the question. See, we say for a multiple choice, we use the word stem of the question. Stem means what is other than the choices. So in the stem of the question, you have to provide all the possibilities here.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Good. One more question. Yeah. Two more questions from you. Let's take one more. Next one. Whichever you want to show us. Yeah.
This question.
Consider a discrete time system. Okay.
Y of n equal to real part of x of n is satisfies which of the following properties?
Yeah. So let's have answers from the participants.
So for this question, multiple options are correct, sir.
Okay. Very good. So mention that because I can see that multiple
Yes.
options seem to be correct. Yes. Yeah. So tell us. So yeah, any more? Let's few more participants try. Let me see what the participants put up. Any other participant has an opinion on this answer? I can see two people have put up. Professor Srija has put up the answer C, and Professor Harish Bhatt has put up the answer D. Any other answers?
So actually, regarding to this question, sir, question number 10.
Wait. Let's have one or two more participants answer. No other opinions? Okay, yes, Professor. Yes, Professor
Yes, sir.
Ramachandran.
Actually, given this question in the first, second day, I think, so. I think yesterday, day before yesterday, sir. Actually, here, if you want to say the system is belongs to linear means, it should be satisfy additivity property as well as homogeneity property, sir. So when you are taking a real part of x of n, it will satisfy additivity property without any doubt, sir.
Yes, correct.
But when you are taking the scaling thing as a complex thing, it will entirely violates the homogeneity property, sir.
Very correct. Very correct.
So altogether, it belongs to the non-linear system, sir.
Very true.
So it's going to satisfy only additivity property here, sir.
Yes. So what is your answer to this question?
My question, additivity satisfies, violates the homogeneity, sir.
Very good. So A and B are the answers.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Mark A and B. You're right. That's absolutely correct. Now I have two comments on this question. One is the grammatical. There's a grammatical mistake. Consider a discrete time. That's okay. Yn is equal to real part of xn.
Okay, sir.
Is satisfies is grammatically incorrect. Consider a discrete time system. It satisfies. Which of the properties does it satisfy? Is the way to frame it. Okay. So grammatically, you need to improve the question.
Okay. Sir.
And then you have to say, somewhere you should make it clear that multiple choices are possible.
Okay. Sir.
Multiple answers can be correct.
Okay.
All right. We'll take one more question from you. Yes.
Okay. This is the last question, sir.
Okay.
So determine which of the following signals are periodic. So here also the answer is going to the multiple answers are correct, sir.
Again, see, be careful. Here in part C, WT, is it from part A and B or is it some other XT and YT?
So actually here x of t and y of t already written now, sir. It doesn't mean like that.
No, it does not.
Okay,
Each option must read independent of the others unless you say so. So for example, WT is equal to XT plus YT, XT of part A plus YT of part B. If you say like that, then people will understand. Otherwise, XT and YT can be any other signals, XT and YT. So this, yeah, that's okay. I think Professor Mridula Korde is unable to attend. So we do wish her mother a speedy recovery. That's perfectly all right, madam. And we wish your mother a speedy recovery. Yeah. So what is your answer to this? Yes. So Professor Ramachandra, what is your answer? Anyway, in this question, the first two were periodic, but the last two are not. Because in the last two, you see, when you take XT plus YT, I mean, with XT and YT as defined in A and B, the periods are mutually, the relation between the periods is mutually irrational, and therefore the sum would not be periodic. But unfortunately, D is also not periodic. So to be careful, sine of 4n is not periodic.
Sorry for the interruption, sir.
No problem. Yeah, we know that you lost
some network.
What is your answer to that question?
One moment, sir.
Yes.
I'm extremely sorry to all of you faculty members.
Yes.
Both A and B is periodic, sir. A comma B belongs to periodic.
Yes.
So C non-periodic, D also non-periodic, sir.
Very true. D is also that's an important thing. D is also non-periodic because the period would be irrational, which is not permissible for discrete signals. Good.
Yes, sir.
Very nice. It's not periodic in the discrete sense. Very good. Okay. Thank you very much, Professor Ramachandra. Very well tried.
Thank you. Thank you for
your
suggestion.
Now we'll have group 2 present its question paper.
Okay,
Thank you, Professor Ram. Yes.
Thank you, sir.
So well done.
Should I present the screen, sir?
Yes, please do. Professor Athore says he read that question as 4 pi. Well, if it is 4 pi, it would be trivially periodic because it's a constant signal. Yeah. In fact, the signal would be 0 everywhere, isn't it? Sine of 4 pi would be 0 everywhere.
So this is the Google form that we have prepared, sir, for the quiz.
Very
So
good.
yes, so we have divided this into 4 sessions: the system properties, the definitions and properties, then the impulse response topic, then we have this convolution topic, and finally the Fourier transform. So we have taken these topics from your consolidated lecture. So these titles have been chosen accordingly.
Very nice.
Okay. So I think Smita ma'am, yes.
Yeah,
Would you
yes,
please?
okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sir, 1-2 sample questions will be taken from each. Will be taken by each of us. So
Yes.
I request Smita ma'am to continue.
Yeah. So good afternoon, sir, and good afternoon to all the participants. As per sir's graded assignment 10, we have decided to take up a question paper for our students. And the first question asked is, determine whether the following system is a causal system and stable system. Y of n is equal to log to the base 10 of modulus of x of n. So
Very
the
very
the question, so the options are: it is a causal unstable system, it is a causal stable system, it is a non-causal stable system, it is an anti-causal unstable system.
very good.
So I've asked the question as causal and stable.
Very good. So let's see. Let's see what. So Professor Ramchandra has already answered you. Professor Nandita Sanyal also has answered. Yes. So you could now show us your answer because there are 2 answers in the chat.
Yeah. So the answer is, it is a causal unstable system. The system is causal since the output y of n depends only upon the present input x of n, and the system is unstable as y of n is infinity for x of n is equal to 0, because we are taking log. So log 0 is infinity. So if at any instant there is a answer coming as infinity, means then that system is an unstable system. So because of that, this is a causal unstable system.
Very good. Yeah, this is a very good question because this takes a tricky case. The case of xn equal to 0 is it's a bounded input. A bounded input results in an unbounded output. So very well framed question. Very nice question.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Next question we have is, determine whether the following system is a shift variant causal and stable system. So for this, y of n is equal to x of n summation k is equal to minus infinity to n. Ma'am, it is minus infinity to plus infinity del of n minus 2k. So in this case, options are non-causal, shift invariant, unstable system. It is a causal, shift variant, unstable system. It is a non-causal, shift invariant, stable system. And it is a causal, shift invariant, stable system.
Should we display the answer?
Shall we display the answer, sir?
Yes.
Or you could explain. So causal, shift invariant, and stable.
No, sir. The answer is, it is a non-causal, shift invariant, stable system. The reason that it is a non-causal system is, had I put the summation limits as k is equal to minus infinity to 0 or up to n value, then it would have been a causal system. But because the output y of n depends upon future inputs of x of n, as n tends to infinity, the system becomes a non-causal system. Then the system is shift invariant as there is no change in summation result, even if your n is advanced or delayed. And the system.
No, you will be careful.
Yes, sir. Sir?
See, what is the interpretation? What does the system do? It multiplies. See, summation k going from minus infinity to what is
plus
that?
Infinity. Plus infinity. Minus infinity to plus infinity.
Plus
sir.
infinity.
Yes.
Delta n minus 2k essentially means impulses lying at every even location.
Yes, sir.
So multiplying.
Yeah.
Yes.
So in entirety, this is a shift invariant system, sir. Because whether we are
if you shift by one step, in fact, the whole problem with such systems, this is an example of what is called a periodically time variant system.
Oh, okay, sir. Okay,
So
okay.
multivariate. So this is so here. If you shift by one step, you get a totally different answer,
Oh, okay.
isn't it? So this is not shift
Mm-hmm.
invariant.
Mm-hmm. So it is a non-causal, it is a shift
Variant.
variant, and it is a stable system.
Is it stable? It's a summation of an infinite number of samples, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Xn into
Okay, a summation. So if you have infinite number, then it will be infinite. So x of n multiplied by infinite
no,
is a
but you're right. Actually, see here, so you have to interpret this carefully.
yes, sir.
Yeah, so no, but then it will get multiplied only by one particular impulse.
Yes, sir.
No, but no. See, y of n is x
Ah.
of n multiplied by. So you're multiplying it by. So you're retaining. See, in this case, what you're doing is you're retaining all the even samples and destroying all the odd samples.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Isn't it? So
Yes,
it is
sir.
stable. It's stable.
It is
I
a
agree
stable,
with you. It
okay.
is stable. Yeah.
So
But
it is
not
a
time invariant.
so it's a
Not shift
non-causal
invariant.
shift variant stable system.
Yeah, it's stable, but yeah, it's again, it's causal, right? Because the output now, in fact, the output only, you see, if let's ask the question of causality. If two inputs are identical up to a particular time, are the outputs identical up to that time? They are, isn't it?
They are, yes, sir.
Therefore, it's causal. See, if two inputs are identical up to a particular time, yes, Professor Atre?
I was thinking like delta is some okay. No. Fine, sir. Fine.
Delta, you're multiplying it by the sequence delta n minus 2k, k sums over all the integers. Means you're multiplying it by a chain of impulses.
Mm-hmm.
So it retains all the even samples and destroys all the odd samples. It makes all the odd samples equal to 0. Isn't it? So it destroys all the odd samples and retains all the even samples. So it's a causal system because if two signals are identical up to a particular sample, then the outputs are also identical up to that sample. So it is causal, it is not time, it's shift variant, because if you shift by one sample, the output changes totally.
Yes, sir.
And it is stable, of course.
Stable.
Okay.
Sir, I also thought that if n is anyway minus infinity, I mean delta of n exists at n is equal to 0. So I thought all the negative samples, I mean, it's my explanation. I thought for negative negative indices, anyway, it is going to be 0. So when we take
delta
okay, no, the k is varying. Sorry.
Yeah,
okay,
k is varying. Yes.
Okay.
So it's a sum of an infinite number of impulses located at even locations. It's a sum of an infinite number of impulses located at even locations. So this is a little tricky, So here, you have to frame it properly. This is not correctly framed. Yeah, I mean the answer to your question. No, sorry, it's correctly framed. The question is correctly framed. It's well framed, but your answers are not correct. Yes.
Okay, we will correct that.
Okay,
yeah.
We'll correct it, sir. We'll correct
That's fine. Yeah. Let's
Thank
take.
you, sir. Now I shall ask Meenakshi ma'am to proceed.
Yes.
Or
Manisha ma'am, are you available?
Yes.
There was some network issue for Manisha ma'am.
Okay.
Are you available,
Yes.
ma'am?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. She's available.
Good
Okay.
afternoon,
All right.
everyone.
Very good.
My set of questions was related to impulse response. So
Yes.
in this case, the first question we have taken it as if two systems with impulse response H1 of t and H2 of t are connected in parallel, then the overall impulse response is. So this is actually a very straightforward question where we have a parallel connection of the LTI systems. Actually, I should have written it as if two LTI systems.
True.
With
this is
impulse
easy.
response.
This is a well-framed question. Yeah, good.
So I think the answer is already come in the chat.
Yes, so it's
and it is correct. It is H1
good.
of t plus H2 of t.
Very nice.
Then we have the second question. The system over here has an impulse response h of n is equal to a
No,
raised
wait,
to
wait,
n
but
u
but
of n.
wait, Professor Manisha, this question is not properly framed. System, HN is not a system.
Oh, sorry, it's the LTI system
Impulse
with
response.
impulse
So you have
response
to
h
say
of
a
n.
linear shift invariant system with impulse response HN given
H.
by this,
Yes, yes,
right?
yes.
So
I
this
will make
the
the changes.
system with impulse, or you say the linear shift invariant system.
Variant system with
I think that's what you
impulse
mean with impulse response
Yes, sir.
HN given by this. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Actually,
The
since
rest
it
of
is
then
the
it is okay.
impulse, yeah, since we categorized it by default, I have assumed in my head it's an LTI system. So
So,
I
you
made
have
that mistake.
I can see what has happened. You have thought something in your mind, but you have not framed the question correctly.
Right,
Yes.
sir. So I'll make those
Okay.
necessary
Good.
changes.
Yeah.
So the
So
question
in fact,
is
no,
that
it's good. See, it's good. It's good that we have mistakes because that's what all the participants need to see. What kind of mistakes take place in framing questions and how we need to correct those. Right? Yes. Yes.
So the
Okay, so
LTI
yes.
system,
Right.
the LTI system with impulse response h of n is equal to a raised to n u of n
Yes.
is, and there are four options given: causal
Yeah.
but not stable, causal and stable. System is causal but stability depends on the value of a.
Very good.
System
Very
is causal and stability is independent of value of a. Actually,
you should complete that. You must complete
Yes.
yes.
The answer is C, right? Professor Ramchandran has given the right answer. Since the function over here is a discrete time signal, a raised to n we have taken, that's why you have to be very careful because in discrete time, the exponential signal a, the value of a decides whether it is a decaying discrete time exponential signal,
True.
a growing discrete time exponential signal, or an exponential signal with a value of a lying less than 0 where it takes the alternate values. So a raised to n can take positive values for n even and it can take negative values for n odd. So depending on the discrete time signal and the value of a, the stability of the system is defined. Otherwise, since it is a multiplication with a discrete time step signal, the system is causal. That's why in all the four options, causality has been maintained.
Very good. But then now when you frame a question like this, all the options have causality, right?
Right.
So then that is not testing that aspect at all, isn't it?
Right, for causality it is not testing. So
Not testing. So that then in the options that of the state the question, or putting that word causality is redundant, isn't it? Because if all the options have causality, then see, when you're framing an option, the option also must be as crisp as possible.
Okay.
So you must not put extraneous unnecessary information into an option.
Right.
So if all the options have a particular possibility, causality, then there's nothing to be it's not required. Isn't it? So some of them should have said non-causal.
Sir, how it depends on A, whether positive A or negative A, or it is a fraction or real number, like this?
It depends on the magnitude of A. The stability depends on the magnitude of A.
Magnitude. Okay.
See, if the magnitude of A is less than 1, the system is stable. If the magnitude of A is greater than 1, the system is unstable.
Unstable, yes.
Right? So it depends. The impulse response needs to be absolutely summable.
So we can say it this way, that since it is a raised to n a discrete time exponential signal, so whether it is decaying or it is a growing exponential, it depends on the value of a. So you have to
the magnitude of A depends on the magnitude of A. Isn't it? If the magnitude of A is more than 1, it would be a growing exponential. So the magnitude of A needs to be less than 1 for the system to be stable.
Yes.
So it's correct. The answer C is correct here. There's no problem. And otherwise the question is correct. I mean, you would not have to delete this question if you had framed it. But then here this question has causality as an unnecessary part of the options. Isn't it? It's not testing that at all.
Yes, sir.
Isn't it? Okay, good. Yeah.
Maybe we can write the options like it is stable when A is less than it is unstable. table when
Yeah,
A is greater. Something like that we can comment.
You can also
Options
test
we
the
can add.
causality aspect if you want,
Yes, sir.
by
Okay.
giving
Okay.
some options which don't. Yeah, all right, good.
Okay. We will do that, sir. Okay.
That's fine. So that's okay. Let's take some more questions from you.
I think the next part will be from Meenakshi Mon.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. So the convolution section that I have
Very good.
designed. So the first question is identify the correct sequence of convolution operations, whether it is scaling, shifting, summation and multiplication, or summation, shifting, scaling and multiplication, or shifting, scaling, multiplication and summation.
But you see, Professor Atre, here again there's an ambiguity. In convolution, I think
Okay.
Folding should be one. Folding.
Yeah, but see, there is an ambiguity because let's start with I think what you're asking is how do you get h of t minus tau from h tau? Is that what you're asking? You need to do
Yes,
that.
sir.
Now, see.
So formula, I should write the formula.
No, wait. So let us see why this question has a problem. When you want to get h of t minus tau from h of tau, there are different ways to do it. One is you can get h of t plus tau first, right? That means h of
Okay.
tau plus t, and then replace tau by minus tau.
Right. Okay.
Or you can first do h of minus tau and then shift by t. Isn't it? So
Okay.
the shifting becomes the nature of the shifting is different. If you first
Okay.
reflect and then shift, the shifting will be different from if you first shift and then reflect. No, but
Okay.
both are correct. So I
Okay.
think that is the ambiguity here in this question. Both there are different possibilities.
Okay.
Isn't it?
So should I write to get output y of t? Then
See,
that may be.
no, instead of trying to generalize here, the better thing is to give an example. Suppose h of tau is this. What would h of 2 minus tau
Okay.
be? Then it is unambiguous.
Okay. Okay. Okay, sir. I'll reframe this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So second is convolution is time domain operation, whether this is true or false.
See, again, now here,
That's in frequency domain also. So
I mean, you can, the effect of convolution is also felt in the frequency domain, isn't it? So this is not, see, such questions are likely to be, they would be problematic in evaluation because a student can very well say that it also has an effect in frequency. So would it be correct to say it's only time domain? It's not really correct, isn't it? So see, when you frame questions, the questions should be framed in such a way that there is no ambiguity about the answer. If you have multiple choice questions. See, if you are framing a question where if it's an open-ended question, it is different. But this is not meant to be an open-ended question. So if it's not an open-ended question, then this is not well framed.
okay.
Right? So either you could say see, you could ask a student to carry out a convolution in the time domain. If it's an essay type question, you can ask the student to carry out a convolution in the time domain. That is okay.
Okay. Okay. I'll reframe that.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. And
now,
this was for calculation,
Now here the result of convolution correlation but then see now let's look at this question. The result of convolution and correlation for the given sequence is the same. What do you mean by this question? It's not clear to me.
They have to calculate the convolution as well as correlation and match the
Convolution
result.
always involves two sequences.
With itself, I need to write. Okay, with itself, I need to write.
If you don't
The
write
result
with
of
itself, then this
convolution.
question is
Right,
incorrect.
right.
Isn't
Okay.
it? Because this question doesn't make sense. The result of convolution and correlation for the given sequence. You see, in fact, then it is not correctly framed because convolution and correlation both require two sequences.
Right,
So,
right. Maybe with itself, I need to write. Yes.
With itself, yeah.
Yes, with itself.
Good. All right. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, what is the fourth one? When two signals are to be compared. When two signals are to be compared, the following operation
is suitable. Is the most suitable option for
So
when
I
we
can
want
see
to
that
compare two
convolute. Yeah, I can see what you're saying, but see, yeah. So what is your answer to this?
correlation.
No, but see, if two signals have identical Fourier series,
Okay.
if there are two signals, periodic signals which have an identical Fourier series, then they are equivalent, isn't it? Equivalent to
Okay.
within points. So the Fourier series is invertible, isn't it? Within the extent to the extent of a set of measure 0 and so on. But for all practical purposes, the Fourier series is invertible. So
Okay.
this again is a bit ambiguous.
Yes, maybe I should try to find the degree of similarity, which one is the best
No, even
option.
then it's not correct. Even
Okay.
then the Fourier
Acha.
series you could very well have used, the Fourier series to compare two signals. In fact, even for, and what do you mean by degree of similarity? When you have to define degree,
Okay.
it's not a unique, what do you mean by degree of similarity?
Okay. So,
So
okay,
one
I
needs to
thought
reframe. This question is not acceptable. This question is not
okay.
acceptable.
Okay. I thought we call the correlation or we define the correlation to
So
be
that's right.
the
I know
degree
what
of
you're trying
matching.
to get at. So I know what you're trying to get at, but this question doesn't get you there. See, that's also
Okay.
important. You want to test something, but the way you frame the question doesn't test that. You're trying to
Okay.
test the fact that correlation actually compares two signals through the inner product, but that is not being tested
Okay.
in this question. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I'll reframe. Okay. Okay, sir.
Okay. All right.
Now I request Dr. Prema ma'am to present
Yes.
her session last Fourier transform.
Okay.
Prema ma'am, are you there?
I'm there.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, Dr. Prema.
Yes, which is a statement which is not true, which is false in this four statements.
Okay. Now, what is this? XT is, what is that? XT is equal to A, is it?
Capital A for the time
For
0
0,
to
yeah,
T by
between
4.
T by 4. Okay.
Yeah, between 0 and T by 4, and 0 from T by 4 to T.
Okay, very
It's
nice.
a periodic signal.
Okay. Frequency, all right, yes. Okay. Yeah, so what is the answer? What do the participants have to say? Let's see. Let the participants try this question. Yes. So Ramchandra Reddy says C.
C is correct, sir. C is correct.
Correct. No, but she is asked what is not true.
Not correct. Yeah.
That's the question.
Yes. C is the correct one.
So Professor Srija, you have to give an option here.
One statement is not true in this.
Spectrum is a sinc function. You're saying that's not true?
Sir, envelope, it is only the envelope of the spectrum. That means the shape of the spectrum.
Yeah, that's what she has written. No? She has said the envelope of the spectrum is a sinc function.
Yeah.
So is that correct or not correct in your opinion?
In my opinion, that is correct.
Correct.
That is true. It's true.
No, but then
in my opinion, last one,
which is not true.
Yeah.
Sinc function is not possible, sir.
Yeah, the correct answer is D, because for a periodic function,
yes,
the spectrum is discontinuous.
Yes,
it will be the discrete summation of sinusoids. It's a Fourier series.
Yeah, see, that is all right, but the word continuous and discontinuous here can be misleading, because you see, in some sense, when you have the spectrum, when you represent the Fourier transform of a periodic signal as a train of impulses, that is also a representation in terms of continuous frequency. So,
but still the values are discrete.
Correct. There are discrete impulses. So I think instead of saying the spectrum of xt is continuous, I think what you probably need to say is the spectrum. Maybe one should make it so frequency of xf is 1 by t is incorrect. That is correct. Envelope is frequency of xf is 1 by t is not correct either. A is not correct.
Yeah, frequency of, yes, x of t is 1 by t.
Ah,
That is a mistake, sir. Type.
that's a
It's
mistake.
x.
Yeah. So,
Yes.
this should have been a mistake, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
So I know again part B is all right, and the spectrum of xt is continuous. That's right, and non-periodic. That is correct. That's now the spectrum xt is continuous or discontinuous here is ambiguous.
Discrete. So, what is the opposite of discrete, sir? Isn't it continuous?
No, but no. The problem is not see the spectrum. So when you say the spectrum is discrete, this is not a universally accepted way of writing the statement. So when you say a spectrum has impulses in it, right?
Yes.
It is not universally accepted that this is the same thing as saying the spectrum is discrete. That's an informal statement. See, the spectrum is discrete is an informal statement. Right? It's not a formally accepted way of describing the spectrum of impulses.
Only that meaning is that it is a summation.
You could say that the spectrum has only impulses, or the spectrum does not have impulses, something like that. See, because then then it will become unambiguous, right? So unless in the class you have made it very clear what you mean by a spectrum being continuous or not continuous, universally this could create a problem. Okay, but yeah, by and large it's okay. What you're saying is all right. I mean, by and large, what you're implying here is that the spectrum has only lines, it has only impulses. But that how you put it needs to be framed properly.
Yeah.
Okay. Otherwise, yes, go on.
No, sir. No, sir.
Okay, fine. All right,
The next, if you want to take one or two,
yeah,
ma'am.
let's take couple of more questions.
It's
So this is a
omega.
very well framed question. If read it out. If f omega is the Fourier transform of f of t, that is a very well framed question. Yes. What is the Fourier transform of f of t by 2? That is very well framed. Yeah. So let's see the participants answering you.
Hint is you need to use scaling property.
Yeah. So Krishna has answered D for you. So maybe you can.
No, sir. Not D.
No,
Not
correct. That's right. But I'm just saying, if somebody puts D, what will happen? So
yeah. Already shown.
Yes. So it will be 2 times f of 2 omega. Good.
2 times f of 2.
Good. Very nice. All right.
These are the other questions. Yes.
Yeah.
That's
So
third
certainly
question.
well attempted, but I've given you some feedback on some of the questions. Okay.
This-
All right. So I think thank you very much. So any other member of your group?
No, sir. We 4 have presented.
Very good. Well done. Very well attempted.
Thank you so much, sir. It was
Thank you,
an eye-opening session because we learned how to frame the questions.
Important to do that. Yeah.